I spent months trying to focus, and over the past few weeks, especially in the past couple of weeks, I really found my groove, so to speak. And in this process is where I think I can kind of summarize it into two or three points that might be able to help you when trying to get more done, trying to finally get productive. Now, the quick backstory um, of like my what my problem has been is that I was basically a chronic procrastinator. I even called it with a friend of mine productive procrastination, which is basically where you feel like you're being productive by just watching YouTube videos, watching any content you have, like scrolling social media, being the most unproductive person in the world, actually being unproductive, but you're watching content and learning things in short term memory and listening to quotes and getting a dopamine hit of all that stuff, thinking that you're being productive, but then when you look back on the rest of the day and what you've done, you've got nothing to show for it because you've been watching content all day. And that's what I was doing for a lot of the time. And granted, I have been physically doing things. I was working with a number of different clients in 2023. I was, actually trying to get a new business started, and well, a couple of different businesses started at the same time, which was also a problem in itself. I'll get onto in just a second. But basically, if you've suffered with procrastination, if you've suffered with trying to focus, get focused and stay focused, get into like it's called the flow state, and actually the most important thing, which is not only flow state, but being able to get the dopamine reward, get spike your dopamine during the activities you want to actually be doing. So the first thing I've realized, and again, these are all things I already knew, it's just I want to reiterate them because I'm finally kind of taking action on these things, and I'm really feeling the momentum now. So the first one is limiting your options. And I can't say this enough now because it's kind of like, you know, I'll eat my own words for this because I've said this a million times to myself. I've tweeted this, I've made it in content before, but my friend told me this. If you don't limit your options, you're going to be just in analysis paralysis and overload, right? So you won't know what to focus on. And when you don't know what to focus on because maybe you've got too many ideas, then you won't do anything. And I was at this point where like I was getting an idea and I wanted to act on it. I wanted to do this, do this, do this, do that. And in the end, because of this, you have shiny object syndrome. You're constantly chasing the shiny object syndrome. And as Alex Hormozy calls it, it's like the 90-day sprint. And you do something for like 30, 60, 90 days, don't get anywhere with it. Maybe it was only going to take another couple of months, but you don't know because you stop because you don't get anywhere with it for those 90 days. I know that because I nearly started an agency with a friend of mine, and like middle of last year, creative agency for like YouTubers. I literally was posting content once or twice a week for 2-3 months at most. Literally the definition of the 90-day sprint, but it was just no priority. It clearly wasn't a priority to us because we weren't focusing on it enough. And then, um, you know, now with my new business, again, I spent months and months and months being like procrastinating basically. Like I was trying to be productive, but I just didn't know what to focus on. Granted, I did actually get a lot done to do with the onboarding process and like basically laying the foundations for making a much bigger company than I've ever built before. So I learned a lot in that process, from working with a few clients to now planning on working with many, many, many clients and being able to onboard many, many clients at the same time and make it as systemized as possible. So granted, I did get a lot of stuff done as I started the business. But again, something that could have taken me 2 or 3 weeks took me 2 or 3 months. So limiting your focus is key, and I will tell myself that again and again and again in my life probably as I go in these ebbs and flows. But just as I'm catching momentum right now, I thought I'd make this content. The second one, really, like I said, is the way to get your dopamine reward, your dopamine spike from the activity itself. And this simply comes from, unfortunately, doing it. And I guess the best way to actually take action on something is something I mentioned before, which is the 2 to 5 minute rule. They're kind of both the same outcome, but either way, it's you are understanding that there is always a motivation, an amount of motivation required to start doing a task that you don't necessarily want to do, whether it's working out, whether it's writing that email, whatever it might be. So the way you get started is by just doing the first 2 minutes of it, or the first 5 minutes of it, or even less than that. Jordan Peters even says the same sort of thing. It's do, make the task smaller, so small until you actually do it. So if it's going for a run, it might be simply putting your shoes by your bed, or it might be putting your shoes on and tying your laces. That's all you have to do. You're not going to go for a run. You're going to tie your shoe, put your shoes on and tie your laces. But of course, once we've done that, we normally have at least the motivation to then, after those 30 seconds of tying our shoes and putting our shoes on, tying our laces, we then want to go for a run for at least 2-3 minutes or something. So we're getting over the hurdle of starting so that we can carry on for however long, 5, 10, 15, 25 minutes. The next one that kind of adds to this is still part of like the second point, is the Pomodoro technique. Now, this is different for everybody, but there is an average to this. So there is a kind of amount of time you can focus for before your focus falls off. And this is also a great way to revise or anything like that, whether it's focus work, revision, whatever it might be. Whether you're studying or whether it's a productive a work task, whatever it might be. So basically set a timer for 25 minutes, or maybe 50 minutes if you can focus for up to 50 minutes at a time, but it's on average, the study was like it's the length of a sitcom, so around 25 to 35 minutes. So if you set a 25 to 35 minute timer, and then take a 5 minute break, and then do anything that's opposite to what your work was. So go and have a drink, and don't get too much of a dopamine reward. Don't scroll social media on your phone, but go out into nature for a minute, go for a quick 5 minute walk, chat with the friends that you're working with or whatever. Do something completely different to what the task is. Come back to it 5 minutes later, and then do another 25 to 35 minutes of it. Then, if you haven't finished the task yet, after the second session, you then take like a 15-minute break, I think. And then you basically reset the clock and you do 25, 35, 10, and you reset the cycle after 2 sessions, basically. And that's a great way to be able to do something, like be extremely productive over the course of, say, an hour by actually working for 25 to 30 minutes at a time in 2 blocks instead and taking a break. So that's part 2. So getting the dopamine from just starting a task, and once you've started it, you've got the motivation to start it, and then you're in it, and then when you're enjoying it more and more and more, you will actually start to engage your dopamine receptor in your brain, the neurotransmitter, and you'll start enjoying a task that you previously thought you hated. The same with like me in cold calling. I don't love it, but I don't need any motivation to start it anymore. I just do it because I remember the feeling of, continuing with getting results yesterday and ending it the day before. So the outcome for me is more rewarding than the beginning. And so I get started with it. And then again, the Pomodoro for actually being like making an hour as productive as possible. And then the third one really, again, is it's kind of, I would say, it's a mixture of time blocking and flow, which again kind of links to the Pomodoro, but the way this works is basically realize how much time you have and leverage your time. Now, I'm not working like 12 or 18 hours a day. In fact, I'm working probably a lot less than I feel like I should. But again, I know that for me, I actually start gaining momentum the less I work, if that makes any sense. So I will work more when I intentionally choose to work less. So I've got a kind of ADHD brain. I've never been diagnosed with it or anything, but I certainly lack focus and attention. But when I finally have focus and attention on a task, and again I do it for like 25 to 35 minutes, I have a break, do go back to it. After 2 or 3 sessions, I will burn out, and even if I have intention and I really want to get to the outcome of the task. So the best thing I can recommend for anyone that's suffering like that, or if you lack focus or attention, like I said, follow the tips so far and the points, but also try working less intentionally. Because even if you have more to do and you now have spare hours in the day, you will start getting the momentum built up and then the motivation to be able to continue doing more tasks. Like I'm actually doing about double or triple the amount of tasks I do in a day than I plan on doing. I write down 3 small tasks every day, like cold calls, set up my emails, and set up another couple of different, like one other different thing. But I end up doing 6 or 9 tasks that are still small and achievable, might only take 2 or 10 minutes each, but they are, I get 3 to 6, like 6 to 9 things done in a day, as opposed to nothing done in a day, or maybe 1 or 2 at most. So with that third bit, intentionally do less so that you can do more. Because when you intentionally do less, you build the momentum of the work you are doing and the more productive time slots, so that you get more done in that time than if you weren't planning on doing it. And then when you have the time after completing those things, you start building the momentum and the motivation, because you know how it only took you 2 hours to do this thing, or an hour to do this thing, so you can do this for 5 minutes or this for 10 minutes, and then you keep building momentum. And this is all partly linked to, as well, time blocking. So this is kind of Parkinson's law, which is that work expands to fill the time required. So if you've got to send 1,000 emails this week, okay, well, divide it by 7 days, or divide it by 5 days, and then do it for 45 minutes a day. Just set 35 to 45 minutes. Set a 1 hour time block every day to do those emails. And in the week, you'll have sent all the emails, or 500 emails, or however many emails you've got to send in the week. So, you know, in one day you might have only sent 2, another day you'll have sent 50, another day you've sent 200. Whereas if intentionally every day you set a specific goal, specific task, so it's 15 minutes of this, 25 minutes of this. Let me do 100 in 2 hours, and you're intentional with each 15-minute period, or 30-minute period, or 45-minute period, or 1 or 2 hour period. You have that intentionality with each period of time in a day, and just like I said, when you're intentional with less time, you will have more time to do all of the things, and you'll be more productive and have the motivation to do it. So that's more or less a rambling of how I've been more productive and I've gained momentum with certain things, and how I still have hours every day to do certain things. And it's how you get more productive. So if you suffer with procrastination, if you suffer with focus, attention, trying to get things done, you've been like a massive chronic procrastinator, I hope this has helped. And let me know your thoughts below. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.